We owe them compassion, knowledge, and hands-on care in their transition to civilian life. We owe them training, rehabilitation, and education. We owe their families, parents, and caregivers our concern, our support, and our love. They should never be deprived of quality medical care and mental health care coverage for illness or injury incurred as a result of their service to our country. As President, I will ensure that those who serve today and those who have served in the past have access to the highest quality health, mental health, and rehabilitative care in the world. I want to promise you the disgrace of Walter Reed will not be forgotten. I will never forget it. Nor will we accept a situation in which veterans are denied access to care due to great travel distances, backlogs of appointments, and years of pending disability evaluation and claims. In addition to strengthening the VA, we should give our veterans the option to use a simple plastic card to receive timely and accessible care at a convenient location through a provider of their choosing. I will not stand for requiring veterans to make an appointment, to make an appointment, to stand in line, to make an appointment, to stand in line for substandard care. To stand in line for substandard care of the injuries you have suffered to keep our country safe. Whatever our commitments to veterans costs, we will keep them, as you have kept every commitment to us. The honor of a great nation is at stake here. Let me close by expressing my gratitude for the contributions of Hispanic Americans have made to the security of the country that I've served all my adult life. I represent Arizona, where Spanish was spoken before English was, and where the character and prosperity of our state owes much to the Arizonans of Hispanic descent who live there. And I know that this country, which I love more than almost anything, would be poorer were we deprived of the patriotism, industry, and decency of those millions of Americans whose families came here from Mexico, Central and South America. When you take the solemn stroll along that wall of black granite on the National Mall, it's hard not to notice the many names such as Rodriguez, Hernandez, and Lopez that so sadly adorn it. When you visit Iraq and Afghanistan, you meet some of the thousands of Hispanic Americans who serve there, and many of those who risk their lives to protect the rest of us do not yet possess the rights and privileges of full citizens in the country they love so well. To love your country, as many of us discovered in Vietnam, is to love your countrymen as well. Those men and women are my brothers and sisters, my fellow Americans, an association that means more to me than any other. As a private citizen or as president, I will never, never do anything to dishonor our obligations to them and their families. No story better exemplifies the sacrifices Hispanic Americans have made for our country than the story of Roy Benavidez. I've told it before, and this won't be the last time I tell it. All Americans need to hear it. Roy Benavidez was the son of a Texas sharecropper, a 7th grade dropout, who suffered the humiliation of being constantly taunted as a dumb Mexican. He grew up to become a master sergeant in the Green Berets and served in Vietnam. He was a member of that rare class of warriors whose service was so honorable and so brave that they're privileged to wear the Congressional Medal of Honor. He was decorated by Ronald Reagan, who said that if the story of his heroism were a movie, you wouldn't believe it. On May 2nd, 1968, in an outpost near the Cambodian border, Sergeant Benavidez listened on his radio as the voice of a terrified American, part of a 12-man patrol, surrounded by a North Vietnamese battalion, pleaded to be rescued. Armed with only a knife, Roy jumped into a helicopter and took off with a 3-man crew to rescue his trapped comrades. When they arrived at the battle, the enemy was too numerous for the helicopter to evacuate the surrounded soldiers. It had to land 75 yards away from their position. After making the sign of the cross, Sergeant Benavidez jumped out of the helicopter as it hovered 10 feet above the ground and ran towards his comrades, carrying his knife and a medic bag. He was shot almost immediately, but he got up and kept moving. A grenade knocked him down again, shrapnel tearing into his face. He got up and kept moving. Reaching the Americans' position, he found 4 men dead and all the others badly wounded. He armed himself with an enemy rifle and began to treat the wounded, distribute ammunition, and call in airstrikes. He was shot again. He then ordered the helicopter to come in closer as he dragged the dead and wounded aboard. After he got all the wounded aboard, he ran back to retrieve classified documents from the body of a fallen soldier. He was shot in the stomach, and grenade fragments cut into his back. He got up and kept moving and made it back to the helicopter. The pilot was shot and the helicopter crashed. Roy pulled the wounded from the wreckage and radioed for airstrikes and another helicopter. He kept fighting until air support arrived. He was shot several more times before a second helicopter landed. As he was carrying a wounded man toward it, a North Vietnamese soldier clubbed him with his rifle and stabbed him with a bayonet. Sergeant Benavidez fought him hand-to-hand to death. After rescuing 3 more soldiers, he was finally flown with them to safety. Bleeding profusely, completely immobile, a doctor thought him to be dead. Roy was placed in a body bag before anyone discovered he was still alive. He spent a year in hospitals recovering from 7 serious gunshot wounds, 28 shrapnel wounds, and bayonet wounds in both arms. My friends, it took 13 years for Roy Benavidez to receive his Medal of Honor. But it didn't seem to matter to him. He stayed in the Army. The war and his forgotten heroism never embittered him. He spent his retirement counseling troubled kids, encouraging them to stay in school and off drugs. "I'm proud to be an American," Roy Benavidez said as he lay dying in a San Antonio hospital 10 years ago. May God bless his soul, and may Americans, all Americans, be very proud that Roy Benavidez was one of us. I wouldn't want to live in a country that didn't recognize how much we needed such a good man. I prefer to live in a bigger place. I prefer to live in a growing America, as proud of its variety as it is of the ideals that unite us. I prefer to live in a hopeful country. I prefer to live in Roy Benavidez' America. Thank you very much.